apartment in Singapore. Oh, it has been quite the 6 weeks away from home, and I'm really happy and glad that I was able to come back to Singapore safe and sound, seamlessly, no COVID, no nothing, and all the logistics and forms to fill were all good to go. So today I want to share a bit more about my experience going from Germany via the Vaccinated Travel Lane back into Singapore, and I have a bunch of footage that I can just insert just to show you guys, so if you're interested, just keep watching. Before I jump right into it though, I feel the need to give a little bit of context. Obviously, if it's your first time coming to watch my videos, hello, my name is Sherry. I think it's important for you to know that I hold a Canadian passport, but I have a work visa in Singapore, so I do live in Singapore. So it might be different if you are a Singaporean or a PR, things like that. So definitely do your research. I always feel the need to add this disclaimer because things do change or can change. And so just make sure you do your due diligence and do your homework. And if you want to know why I was even in Germany and before that I was in London, I have a whole video about it. So definitely go check that out. I answer a lot of FAQs in this video. Today's video is going to be all specifically about the process of Germany to Singapore. Whew, okay, all the context is done, let's just jump right into it. So before leaving Germany, there's just a few things I needed to do. First things first is obviously make sure that I get approval to even get into Singapore. So I needed to apply for a Vaccinated Travel Pass. This is basically access for you to use the travel lane to get into Singapore. So I did that, it was super duper easy. You just need to go on the Singapore government website, apply for it, and I pretty much got an immediate approval. So that was easy. Obviously, secondly is to be vaccinated, as the name implies. The only thing to be aware of is if you're doing the Singapore Germany route, you need to be vaccinated in either one of those two places. So you can't be vaccinated from, let's say, London and hope to use the travel lane. And then the third thing is 48 hours prior to leaving Germany, I did a PCR test just to make sure I have the negative results ready for boarding my flight. So the last few days in Germany, I actually stayed right near the Frankfurt airport. So I just got it done at one of the test centers at the airport, and it was super duper easy. However, it's pretty simple and pretty easy to find a test center because any test center that's recognized for PCR testing in Germany by the German government is something that you can use to get back into Singapore with in terms of test results. Going to do my PCR test. I paid extra to make sure that I got my test results within 12 hours. You don't necessarily have to do this as long as you get it before your flight. But for me, I just wanted a peace of mind the day before my flight to know that I was COVID negative. So all was good. I just finished the PCR test and that literally took 2 seconds. 2 seconds. And so it was super easy. I honestly think the throat swab was a million times easier than the nose PCR test. Holy crap, if you guys ever get to choose, you absolutely should only be doing the throat swab one. Crazy. So I would say the only thing to be aware of is just make sure your passport number is on the documentation. Make sure your personal information, like your full name and all that kind of stuff, is accurate, because I have read a few posts on Facebook groups about how someone's passport number wasn't on it, or maybe it was typed in incorrectly, and then they ran into a lot of issues at immigration. So just make sure everything is there, and also make sure that the negative test results are in English. And then the actual check-in process the day of the flight. So I personally did the SQ325 flight, which is a Friday 10 p.m. flight. And the check-in process, I would say, was probably the most comprehensive step in Germany, because at the counter, that's where they ask for your proof of the approval for the Vaccinated Travel Pass, COVID test, a proof of vaccination, and then of course, make sure you also do your Singapore government arrival form, just part of the process as well. After checking in, let's talk about the boarding process and the flight itself. So I know a few friends that actually traveled before me back from Germany to Singapore, so they also used the Vaccinated Travel Lane, and coincidentally all of them also flew the Singapore Airlines 325 flight, which is like the Friday 10 p.m. flight, and all of them actually experienced an hour delay boarding the plane. So myself included, I think it was delayed by maybe 45 minutes when I flew. So I don't know if this is like a reoccurring trend because there's a lot of logistics and paperwork for the staff member to do, but if you're in a rush, just keep that in the back of your mind that it was delayed by almost an hour for myself and other people that I know. However, once that was done and out of the way, they were done calling passengers' name on the PA system like 18 million times. Finally boarded the plane. Ahead of getting onto the plane, there were these like disinfectant wipes and whatever headphones that you can like get. And then the flight itself, I was honestly quite surprised to learn that it was really much more fuller than I expected. So I believe for the most part, business and premium economy were basically entirely full. And in the economy section, it looked like, I don't know if this was done on purpose or whatever, but every other seat was full. Honestly, if you're on a Singapore Airlines flight, if I remember correctly, premium economy, even if you have an empty seat beside you, the armrest doesn't go up all the way. It goes up to this like kind of like 40-degree angle. So if you're lucky and you board a flight where you actually are in economy and there is just no one beside you, it's actually better in my opinion to be in economy because you can put up all the armrests and literally just lay across 3 seats. So, but there's no way you can really know that. So it's really just, you know, if you want to take the gamble, then sit in economy and hope that you'll get to lie down flat out. But the flight itself was quite packed. So yeah, but in general, everyone seemed quite chill, I must say, because no one was wearing a face shield. Everyone was definitely wearing a mask the entire flight. The food itself, I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. And then the moment we landed in Singapore, it was also just very well organized, I must say. Everyone gets off the plane. They already do a temperature check while you're leaving the actual aircraft. So once you get like immigration, there's a bunch of lines. Usually under non-COVID circumstances, if you live in Singapore, you can just take your ID card and, you know, do the automated gates to get in. However, because it's COVID, they need to check a lot of documents. Everyone's lining up. So there's the all passports section, and then there's the people that are residents of Singapore. Obviously, I lined up in the residents of Singapore section. It still took a while, like it was not particularly any faster. And then the immigration part, they just asked to make sure that you are aware of the rules. So basically, there are 4 COVID tests you need to do as part of this traveling. Before you leave Germany, you need to do a pre-departure test. You need to do an on arrival at Changi Airport, and then you need to do a day 3 and a day 7 test in Singapore. So they kind of just run you through the rules. They check a bit of your documents to make sure everything is in order, and then they just take a photo of your face and then voila, you're done. And then you go pick up your checked baggage. So that process was fine. It's just there's a lot of people coming from the same aircraft, so you just gotta wait in line, which is no big deal. So after getting your checked bag, you've got your trolley, and usually you just leave customs and then you just leave the airport, but they direct you and your bags to go do your on-arrival PCR test. Honestly, I must say the Changi Airport is so freaking organized. Like everything, there's clear signs, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you go here. There's like a million staff member just very kindly guiding you towards the right place. So everyone was just like la 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 la. So you get to the PCR test, there's a massive line because everyone on the aircraft is taking the PCR test. Before you actually go to Singapore, you can already pay for your on-arrival PCR test, which is what I did. So you just pull out the confirmation QR code receipt thing, show them, and then it's like this sort of semi-outdoor center temporary booth looking thing. You gotta give it to the Singapore government for being so organized and so explicit with what you gotta do. You've got step 1 here, which is confirming payment. Then you gotta register, wait for your test, take the test, complete the test, and then you go get picked up to go home. This is what the place looks like. It's like a temporary tent looking thing. So, heading in. And it's getting dark outside, so it's been quite a slow process getting the luggage actually. Everything else has not been bad. You line up, there's a few steps. So you get your nose, your throat, a little swab, and then you're done. You get a bunch of stickers along the way. but it was just a very easy process. I think if anything, it's just the waiting because there's a lot of passengers. So after you do your PCR test, I had to just go home. I live alone, so I had to self-isolate at home until I get a notification that my PCR test results are out and that it is negative. So I must say, they are so on top of it. I got home, I was just unpacking at home and I got a call from the Ministry of Health. They were like, just making sure that you didn't go anywhere else. It needs to be from airport to home directly. And so they call you, they'll tell you that, your results will come out, within, I think, 24 hours. I just chilled at home. Given the fact that I landed in Singapore late afternoon, early evening, it was, Saturday, 6 p.m. I did my PCR test. I got my test results by midnight of the same night. So it only took maybe 5 or 6 hours maximum. I got an email and then it said my test was negative, so I am a free person. And that was that. So no quarantine, no difficult issues, anything like that. I am blown away by the efficiency of this test. And it was really nice because even though I wouldn't necessarily leave my apartment at midnight, I have nothing to do at that time, it was nice to know that it's so freaking quick. Then after all that, Sunday morning I woke up and I was free to go wherever I wanted to go. After all of that, there's just a day 3 and a day 7 COVID test that you just need to do as well. So it was so good because they send you an email with a very specific link. You book your day 3 appointment with that link and then you just go to one of the many test centers for Raffles Medical that there is across Singapore and just book one that's maybe convenient for you. On my way to go do my day 3 PCR test, and there are a lot of locations you can pick from, so quite convenient. But after the day 7 one, then everything is done and all is good to go. So I hope this was helpful for you guys, and if you're planning on traveling from Singapore to Germany or vice versa, then hope you have safe travels. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'd be happy to answer in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye!